Welcome to part 3 of our video comparing the Torqeedo Travel S, the ePropulsion Spirit, the Remigo One, and the Temo 1000. Today we're going to talk all about batteries. So we're going to run you through the different battery options for each one of these electric outboards. We'll also talk about how you can charge those batteries and the different charging options for each motor, and then how you can extend your range or how you can't extend your range by using a different battery depending on which motor you have. So let's do it. So first off, we'll talk about the Torqeedo Travel S. So this battery comes on and off very easily. You just lift that orange lever there, slide it back, lift the end of the battery up, take it off. Has a cableless connection. So when you make the physical connection, it connects the power and data port on the motor to the power data port on the battery. Easy to put right back on. Next up, we have the Spirit battery. So this is what comes stock with the Spirit Evo or Spirit 1.0 Plus. It does have a cabled connection, and when you're taking these on and off, you want to make sure you're not pushing and twisting to line it up. You want to line it up first so that you don't break any of these small pins in there. And then this metal connector twists right on. To remove the battery, you'll lift up on the blue handle and the gray handle, and it comes right off. And we'll line up the channels on the battery with these two parts on the motor to drop it back on. The first couple times you do that might be a little tricky to get it on there, but you get used to it pretty quickly. Next up, we have the Remigo One, and we can't show you how to take the battery on and off because it's built into the shaft. So that has some benefits and some drawbacks. The main benefit is there's no connections to corrode or break. A failure in those electrical contacts is probably the most common issue we see with electric outboards. And by permanently installing the battery into the shaft, Remigo has eliminated that point of failure. Now, it does still have a charge port like all of these motors do, so you could have corrosion issues there, but only one charge point, not a second point to connect the battery to the motor. Then finally, we've got the Temo 1000. Temo 1000 has a removable battery, but it's integrated into the shaft. So you can lift it up just like that. It also has a cableless connection point. So that meets a point that's down in the shaft. Maybe you can come in and see that. And so there's one piece of plastic that guides it down, and then the power data connection is just behind there. So you just have to make sure that the battery is facing the right way when you drop it into the shaft. So when you're thinking about range with an electric outboard, you can get a rough idea of that by dividing the capacity of the battery in watt hours by the max power output of the motor in watts. That'll get you your full power runtime. So for the Torqeedo Travel S, comes with a 1080 watt hour battery. It's an 1100 watt motor, so you get about 59 minutes of runtime at full power. The ePropulsion Spirit is a 1 kilowatt motor with a 1276 watt hour battery, so you're looking at about an hour and 15 minutes of runtime at full power with the stock battery. When it comes to the Remigo One, you've got a 1000 watt motor with a 1085 watt hour battery, so you're looking at an hour of runtime or maybe slightly more. And then finally, with the Temo 1000, it's an 1100 watt motor with a 949 watt hour battery, so you're looking at about 50 minutes of runtime at full power. So what we've found over the years is that a lot of people overestimate how much runtime they need. We just ran you through the runtime of each of these motors at full power, but if you've watched the other part of this video, you can see that if you bump your power output down a little bit, your speed doesn't change much and your range increases pretty significantly. So we find that the stock battery on all of these motors is plenty of runtime for 90–95% of our customers. But if you do need more runtime, there are ways to extend it for some of these motors. So for the Travel, the Spirit, and the Temo 1000, it's very easy to extend your runtime. You just buy another battery. When you've used up one, you swap it out with another. With the Remigo, there's no way to extend your runtime other than charging your battery, because the battery is built into the motor. With the Travel XP, you can buy, or excuse me, with the Travel S, you can buy a second standard Travel battery, or you can buy a Travel XP battery. So the Travel XP is the 1.6 kilowatt, 5 horsepower version of the Travel S, very similar. We've got another video on that if you need a little bit more power. But the Travel S works with its standard battery as well as the XP battery. The XP battery is 1,425 watt hours, so it extends the range of the Travel S by about 40%. So if you're thinking about going with the Travel, but you want a little bit more runtime than what comes standard, you can upgrade it to the Travel XP battery. Use that with this motor. Those are the only two batteries that work with a Travel. There's no third-party options, and you cannot use a larger Torqeedo battery. So ePropulsion gives you the most flexibility with battery options and also the most runtime out the gate with a standard battery. So the Spirit battery has about 20% more runtime than the stock battery on any of these other electric outboards. So it's kind of the most bang for your buck with portability, range, and runtime. If you want to extend your range with the Spirit battery, you have a couple options. Our recommendation is typically to buy a second Spirit battery because it fits right on top of the cowling so well, very portable, lots of good stuff there. But you can also use a larger ePropulsion battery or a third-party battery. So if you're going that route, you would take this battery off, or you wouldn't have that battery to begin with, and then ePropulsion makes a cowling, which we'll show you a picture of. I don't have one here. And it's just a little plastic cover for this that makes it look a little bit nicer. You don't have to get it. It's just for aesthetics. And then we'll also show you a picture of the third-party battery connector. So one end plugs into here, and then it comes off into a positive and negative ring terminal. And that allows you to use any compatible 48 volt battery. There is a minimum continuous amp power output, but most 48 volt batteries meet that, especially if it's lithium. So if you are going to go third party, we do have third party options on our site, and we highly recommend getting some high quality lithium marine grade battery, not just using a lead acid. I think you'll be disappointed if you go that route. But the Spirit is definitely the winner with runtime, stock out the gate, and flexibility in other battery options. On the other end, we have the Remigo, and it's not possible to extend your range with the Remigo One except by charging the motor. So one of the benefits of the Remigo is you don't have all of those connection points, but one of the drawbacks is you can't just swap out another battery and extend your range. Finally, when it comes to the Temo 1000, to the best of our knowledge, it's not compatible with third-party batteries, and at least at this time in the US, Temo doesn't have any of its larger batteries available. So if you do need more range with the Temo 1000, you can of course charge your battery, or you buy a second one of these batteries here. If you do need to purchase a second battery, the cost of a battery, at least at this point in time, is $1,349 for the Spirit Battery Plus and the standard Torqeedo Travel battery. The Travel Battery XP, that one with more capacity, is $1,749. An extra battery for your Temo 1000 is $1,249. And then you obviously can't get an extra battery for the Remigo, but if you do need to replace the battery for the Remigo, at this point in time, the cost is $900 for the battery, plus any installation costs from Remigo or your local Remigo dealer. All right, so now we're on to how you charge these batteries and how long it takes to charge them. So all these motors come stock with a standard AC charger. One end plugs into the wall outlet, the other end plugs into the motor or the battery. Keep in mind that charger usually comes in the box with the motor. At least that's the case with the Travel and the Spirit. So if you buy a second battery, you don't get a second charger. You have to buy that separately. But we'll show you how all those, or where all of those plug in on these batteries. So on the Torqeedo, we have a nice cap for the charge port there. It plugs right in. And one of the nice things about the Torqeedo motor is you actually get live charge time when you're charging this battery and it's hooked up to the motor. So you plug in the charger, you power it on, and it will tell you how much time is remaining before it's fully charged. Next up, we have the Spirit. Charger goes right in there. With the Remigo, your charger plugs right in the top. This cap is kind of nice. It flips down. It's on a spring, which should keep it nice and sealed. We also like how big these pins are on the Remigo. They're just less likely to break compared to some of the smaller pins on the Spirit or the Travel. And then with the Temo 1000, you pull your battery out. We have a nice rubber seal, and then your charger plugs right in there. Now, in terms of charging options, there's a few different ways. So they all come stock with a standard charger. With the Temo, you also have the option to get a 12-volt DC charger. Great option for cruising sailors. But to the best of our knowledge, there's no fast charger available, and there's no solar charge controller available for the Temo 1000. With the Remigo and the Spirit, you have kind of the widest range of charging options. So you have your standard AC charger, plugs into a regular wall outlet. You also have a fast AC charger, plugs into a regular wall outlet, but brings that charge time down. And then you can also use a solar charger or a 12-volt DC charger. The solar charger for the Remigo has a maximum power output of 160 watts, whereas for the Spirit and the Travel, that max output on their solar is 400 watts. Most people don't have enough space for 400 watts of solar on their boat. Usually we're talking 100 or 200 watt panel, but if you do have the space and you want to be able to charge fast with solar, the Travel and the Spirit will charge faster than the Remigo. And then finally for the Travel, you've got that standard charger, and then you have a 12-volt charging cable and a solar charging cable. One of the cool things is that the DC charger is actually already built into the battery. So when you get the 12-volt or the solar chargers for the Travel, it's really just a cable. For the 12-volt, one end goes into a 12-volt outlet, the other plugs in here, and for the solar, one end is here and the other end is standard MC4 connectors. So that's kind of nice because it's not as bulky, whereas with all of these other motors, the DC or the solar chargers are a separate little unit there. The Torqeedo Travel takes about 6 hours to charge with the standard AC charger. The ePropulsion Spirit Battery Plus takes about 8.5 hours on the standard charger. The Remigo One is about 6 hours on the standard charger, and the Temo 1000 is about 5.5 hours on the standard charger. One thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about charge time is that it's not often you are running your battery all the way down to 0%. So in reality, the time it takes to charge the motor up will be less than the numbers we just discussed. If you're interested to learn the charge times for the fast chargers, the DC charger, or the solar charge controllers, head over to our website, which is emoelectric.co. Head over to the page, that's the 3 horsepower outboard comparison, and you'll be able to download a PDF guide with all the information that we've discussed in this video and the other comparison videos as well. So regardless of which of these electric outboards you choose, it is important to take care of your battery. So these batteries, their lifespan depends on a few different things, mainly time, how it's taken care of, and how many cycles it goes through. Unless you are using your boat 50, 100 days a year, if you're in the top 5% of people who use their boats, it's unlikely you're going to get to kind of the max charge and discharge cycles on these motors. What's more likely is eventually you'll need to replace the battery because it loses capacity over time. So just like your phone, all lithium batteries lose a few percentage points of max state of charge every year. So we usually say that most of these batteries have a useful life of about 7 years if you've taken good care of them. You might be able to use it beyond 7 years, but your max capacity will be significantly less than it was when you first bought the motor. And the way that I like to think about this is when you buy a new battery, you're basically prepaying what would be your fuel and maintenance expense on a gas outboard for about 7 years. In terms of best charging practices for lithium batteries, you want to avoid leaving your battery always at 100% state of charge or always close to 0% state of charge. So that's why, like, if you have an iPhone, it won't charge it up to 100% in the middle of the night, right? It waits till an hour or two before you wake up. Similar thing with these motors. So if you've gone out in the water, you've used your electric outboard, you've come back and you've got 40 to 60% or so state of charge, and you're not going to go out in the water for, another week or two, instead of charging that battery back up to 100% right away, wait until the day before you go out on the water. Similarly, if you've run it down to less than 10, 20%, charge it back up. Ideally around 50%, you can charge it back to 100, and we kind of get to the other end of that. So obviously there's what's best for the battery and then what's practical for you, but it's good to keep that in mind. Moreover, all of these manufacturers recommend that you check the state of charge on your battery once every 3 months when the battery is not in use. So all that means is have the battery stored somewhere over the winter, hopefully where it's not going to freeze, or definitely where it's not going to freeze. And then every 3 months, check the state of charge. That's very easy to do on the Remigo, right? You just put the key on there. On the Temo, you can press a button on the top of the battery and the battery will light up and show your state of charge rounded to the nearest 25%. And with the Spirit and the Travel, you have to plug the battery into the motor in order to get your state of charge. So hope that gives you a little overview on how to take care of your battery, charge time, all that. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, please like it, subscribe to our channel. It helps make these videos possible. What really makes these videos possible, people buying these electric outboards from us. You can do so at emoelectric.co. You can also download a PDF guide where we take all the data from this video and put it into one place for you. So we hope you found this video helpful, and we'll see you for the next one.